Hello and welcome to Press TV's extended coverage of the Arab revolutions and uprisings. In this segment, we're going to take a look at Saudi Arabia and the developments that are coming there. Well, this has been somewhat of a repeat of what has been going on, and that's in the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. However, again, there has been hundreds who have protested in Qatif in solidarity, and not only in terms of some of the demands that they're making, but in solidarity with Bahrain. Keep in mind that these protests are being held despite a state ban of gatherings. Also, another gathering in the town of Awamiya has been cited. And the interesting thing about this gathering is that the people there have defied a call by some of the leading clerics in Saudi Arabia for them not to come out. But they have defied that call and still have come out. In another development, the Imam of Friday prayers has condemned the burning of mosques in Bahrain. Again, I'm sure you're well aware at this point that there are Saudi troops inside Bahrain also. And to give you an idea of why this has brought outrage and also had the Imam of Friday prayers to come out with this condemnation, 43 mosques and mourning halls have been burnt by Bahraini and Saudi forces since mid-February. Now, in terms of some of the details behind the demonstrations, they, as I mentioned, have been protesting against the destruction of mosques in Bahrain. This, of course, is the Bahraini security forces along with the Saudi backups in Bahrain. Some of the other demands that are being made by protesters in Qatif is that they are calling for the release of prisoners who are held without trial, and also they are calling for an end to human rights violation. Okay, you're seeing there the latest pictures that have come through from the oil-rich city of Qatif, which is in the east of Saudi Arabia, and people have come out despite the state ban that has been held for quite some time in Saudi Arabia. Again, keeping in mind that this monarchy has not seen these type of protests in a very long time, to say the least. As I was explaining, they are siding with the people in Bahrain. What has happened in Bahrain, of course, is culminated into a condemnation by many of the protesters there, along with the Imam of Friday prayers, and that has to do with the burning of mosques in Bahrain, of which 43, as I mentioned, have been burned, along with mourning halls since mid-February. In terms of what the significance of this is, Saudi Arabia itself is looked at whether they are going to adhere to some of the requests, which along with the condemnations have been towards some type of political reforms in the country. And under scrutiny is the actions by Saudi Arabia. Just recently, in the past week, Saudi Arabia, a member of the Group of 20, which also has acceded to the Arab Charter for Human Rights, which guarantees freedom of expression, yet has not signed the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Some of these points were brought up in a report by Human Rights Watch, in which it also ranked Saudi Arabia to be the least democratic country, not only in the Middle East, but the whole world, 160th out of 167 countries. Again, Human Rights Watch has come out with this report. You can actually log on to their website and you will get the details of this report. So in regards to Saudi Arabia, much significance can be placed, not only with the protests that you're seeing there in the form of latest pictures, of which protesters in solidarity with their Bahraini counterparts are showing that obviously they care about what is going on. but also the way Saudi Arabia handles these protests is a reflection. What they have displayed in Bahrain, many have cited that to be a reflection of how they will deal with protests inside the kingdom. But so far, as these latest pictures indicate, there are no signs there that the Saudi are coming down hard on the protesters. Of course, you have to also keep in mind political prisoners is a very big issue in Saudi Arabia. The report that I mentioned by Human Rights Watch was in reference to 160 dissidents who have either gone missing or are in Saudi detention, and some just for purely stating any type of opposition towards the Saudi monarchy can be thrown in jails. This is not a recent event. The dissidents have been rounded up throughout the years in Saudi Arabia. The 160 that I mentioned could be amongst thousands who may currently be serving inside jails in Saudi Arabia. But the cities that are witnessing protests are Qatif in the east. It's an oil-rich city, along with the city of Awamiya, in which the significance there, aside from the protests being held, is that the people and the Saudis defied a call by the leading cleric in Saudi Arabia just a day earlier, and they have come out onto the streets. Okay. As you are witnessing, we wanted to give you an idea about the protests and what people are being said there. According to some, even Saudi intellectuals, they do see the protests in Saudi moving and growing, and this even is in regardless of what the Saudi King Abdullah has focused on, which basically centers around the lavish social handouts that he has promised in a form of $130 billion, some really large number set aside for that. However, whether that's going to stop the political reform that many of the Saudis are basically yearning for remains to be seen. Although unlike some of the other uprisings that has been witnessed, the ones in Saudi is of a great significance due to the position that Saudi has. And Saudi Arabia, interestingly, is obviously been a country that has many of its policies, investments, and many different facets of its kingdom tied to the West. And in particular, of course, we can mention the United States and EU countries. On that note, I'd like to just add a couple details on that. The recent visits by the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Catherine Ashton. She visited Saudi Arabia on April 18th and said she had been very pleased with her two-day visit to Riyadh. And we're going to get into statements made by a U.S. official also. But at this point, let me bring in a guest who could probably shed more light and an introspective on this. Jamal Wakim, Lebanese International University from Beirut, joins us right now. Jamal Wakim, thanks for joining us. I was reflecting on two visits, one by the Foreign Policy Chief of EU, Catherine Ashton. Her two-day visit, she said that she was very pleased. And then when we talk about the one from the United States, the National Security Advisor, Tom Donilon, made no comments. Also, Defense Secretary Robert Gates, in a recent visit, didn't say anything about what is going on, and in reference also to what is going on in Bahrain, but he mentioned he proposed Saudi Arabia to buy some military equipment from them. How do you see the views and attitude and approach by EU and the United States in this case when they go to Saudi Arabia, keeping in mind what's going on in Bahrain and, of course, within the Saudi kingdom itself? Okay, Jamal Wakim, if we have you, I'd like you to give us an idea about the posturing by the EU and by the United States, who are slowly being criticized for their muted response as to what is going on in Saudi Arabia's neighbor, and of course then in the way they don't respond to what Saudi Arabia is doing in Bahrain.
Yeah, but can you raise the voice, please? The volume? Hello? Hello?
Jamal Wakim, do you have me?
Yes, yes.
Very good. Well, Jamal Wakim, welcome. Let me just ask you, we're looking at protests on the screen in Qatif in Saudi Arabia. Now, I'd like to get your reflection on the protests in Saudi Arabia, and after that, quickly, if you can, the reaction that the EU and the United States, their muted reaction, I should say, towards the way Saudi Arabia has exercised itself in its neighbor, and that's the Persian Gulf island of Bahrain.
Well, regarding the Saudi involvement in Bahrain,
yeah, we may have lost Jamal Wakim there. Anyways.
Hello?
Yes, Jamal Wakim, if you have my voice, you could continue.
Yeah, well, actually, regarding the reaction of the American and European reaction towards Saudi involvement in Bahrain, this is something that is totally understandable by the Western countries, because the situation in Bahrain was threatening the stability of the Saudi regime, especially Hello?
Yes, Jamal Wakim, continue.
Yeah. So, actually, because I was saying that the situation in Bahrain was threatening the stability of the Saudi regime, especially that it was encouraging Saudis of all factions and of all confessions to rise in demand of their rights that were confiscated long ago by the Saudi dynasty. So that's why the Saudi involvement in Bahrain was to calm down this there so that it wouldn't affect the situation in Saudi Arabia, which we are seeing now actually in what's going on in Al Qatif with the demonstrations. And we need to note that discrimination in Saudi Arabia isn't against only the Shia population, especially in the eastern part of the country where it's predominantly Shia, but it's against all, it's a hierarchy of discrimination from one tribe against the other, from the Najdis against the Hijazis, from the Najdis against the region of Hasir, and within Najd itself. So it's a hierarchy of discrimination with and having the Shia population of the eastern part at the bottom of this discriminative structure. So what we're witnessing now in Qatif was highly encouraged by the events in Bahrain, where people were pushed to rise in rebellion. They were encouraged by other rebellions in Tunisia and in Egypt to claim their rights, their civil rights, confiscated also by the Bahraini dynasty.
And recently, Human Rights Watch has come out saying that Saudi Arabia has rounded up 160 dissidents. Tell us, how much longer do you think Saudi Arabia, even though the protests that we're seeing is not in the scale of some of the other uprisings, for how much longer do you think that they are going to be insulated from what is going on? We know, obviously, the repression that exists in Saudi Arabia.
Well, actually, the political regime in Saudi Arabia is in a deep crisis, especially that we don't know how the line of succession will move from the aging King Abdullah now to his crown prince, who is 1 year younger than the king himself. So we have a deep crisis of institutions in Saudi Arabia. However, the regime in Saudi Arabia is much supported by the United States, which considers the country as its oil reserve. So that's why the regime, I think, as far as it has this American support, it is to a big extent immune to changes and reform, unless we have an uprising that is well organized by a political group, something that I don't see. Otherwise, it would lead to total chaos in a country that was created almost 80 years ago.
Okay, we're going to have to unfortunately end it there. We've ran out of time, but thank you very much, Jamal Wakim, Lebanese International University there from Beirut. And to add to Jamal Wakim's statement, in Saudi Arabia, under 30s actually account for 60% of the population who has grown up in the internet age. So we do have to wait and see for how much longer Saudi Arabia will be insulated from what is going on. Stay tuned. In a few minutes' time, we will have international news coming your way.